The Affluenza Teen is now waiting to face charges after violating his probation. Earlier this week, Ethan Couch's mother was sent back to the U.S. after they were arrested in Mexico. In 2013, Ethan Couch got 10 years probation for killing 4 people in a drunk driving crash. Couch's lawyers argued that his parents were partially to blame because they never set any limits for him and always gave him what he wanted. It's now known as the Affluenza defense. Now, the Texas District Attorney is trying the case, says that Couch may only get 120 days for violating his probation. Joining us this morning to talk about the Affluenza defense and how it works and why Couch could get a lenient punishment for running off is local attorney Rhonda Peoples-Waters. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So how does this work, and the fact that he did run off with his mother, does that help his case that his mother was, in a sense, enabling him?
Well, absolutely. The defense, when he was initially being sentenced, put forth this Affluenza defense saying, listen, he never really understood that there were consequences for his actions, for the way that his parents raised him, being rich and his societal circumstances. And so now, obviously, we are seeing a continuation of that because he and his mother obviously fled the country, and there are issues that are going to play out, and the court is now going to have to make a decision on whether or not he's going to remain in the juvenile system or whether his case can be transferred to the adult system.
His mom could be punished for this.
She could, and actually charges have been brought against her for what we would call like harboring a fugitive and helping him to evade authorities, and she's actually looking at up to 10 years in prison under Texas law as well.
Wow. Talk about how this sets a precedent. You know, we were talking before the break that it seems like anybody could use this excuse if you have money, or also it kind of gives you the argument, well, what about the kids who didn't have any money and their parents weren't around to teach them anything or give them boundaries either? I mean, anybody could really say, oh, my parents didn't teach me, right? I mean,
right.
How does that work?
And absolutely. A court and our judicial system is set up to understand what your background is and the individual defendant and any mitigation, but it could just as well be mitigation that a poor family didn't have this upbringing. So what the court has to do is really balance along with your background with what the consequences of the crimes are.
Does it seem to be something, it's not very common to see cases like this, but does it seem to be something that is beneficial to the child, or is it kind of like, I mean, to me it doesn't seem like a very big consequence. How will the child ever learn?
Absolutely, and that's what the court system is now going to face, because if he goes into the adult system, Ethan, he will now be looking at some much larger consequences and be looking at a substantial amount of prison time, when he may have been able to learn those consequences a little bit better had the penalties been harsher in juvenile court.
And just talk about what's next in this case now that this has happened.
Well, absolutely. Again, the prosecution will decide and ask if they can send him not just in juvenile court, because if he stays in juvenile, he'll be released at age 19 in the next couple of months. But if he's transferred to adult court, then he'll still have about 8 years of probation, and if he has any new violations, he can serve up to 10 years in prison for each one of those 4 deaths.
Wow, that's a big deal. What do you think's going to happen? I know you're obviously not a part of this case, but just outside looking in.
Well, I believe that the court is going to be under quite a bit of pressure to look for any allowances in the law that's going to allow him to remain in the adult system and under the confines of the judicial system. They see that he's having problems abiding by the law as it was already provided to him.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate your perspective, and we will definitely continue to watch this case. For the time being, Ethan Couch remains in Mexico. Tanya Couch faces a 2 to 10 year sentence if convicted of hindering apprehension.